For me, as you know, I don't do injustice. I don't like injustice, and I can't keep quiet when it comes to injustice. So I'm very passionate particularly about this. I have witnessed many times racism within the Muslim community from practicing people.
See, I haven't.
I have.
And I think that's my thing, because I haven't seen it, I haven't felt it, so it's just like, I know it's there, but...
Shalom, shalom, brothers and sisters. I hope you're doing fine wherever you are today. You know, somebody said that remaining silent in a situation of injustice is a complacent injustice itself. So, in as much as you as a person, you don't face a problem, that doesn't mean that you should keep quiet when the same problem is happening to another person, because the next day you will be the person that will knock into your door. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Eugene Doki Stories. I hope that you're doing fine wherever you are today. So in today's video we are going to talk about something which for the longest time we've been wanting to talk about, something for the longest time which has been happening in the black community. And what even makes it much special, it is not about only the black community. This is something which is related to Arab people. But now it touches race in this sense. It touches race in this sense that we are having Arab people who don't want their kids or their children to have a hand with a black person. And this has been a discussion for the longest time. We are going to see these opinions of these beautiful Arab women, these beautiful Islam women. We're going to see their opinion in regards to this, and for what I can see, they are heading on the right direction. Only for some point that one person said that for him, he haven't experienced racism firsthand, but he felt like it's something which understands. But it let me ask a lot of questions. The same thing I want you to watch, come back, let's have, a talk about this. And just before that, today's video is sponsored by this app.
A Bible app for the new generation. 1,000 top independent and award-winning recording artists narrating the New King James Bible. 1,189 new original songs based on storylines from each chapter from the Bible. Wherever your imagination leads, we're already there.
I mean, this is an app that you can go and see, have different Bible verses and see what you can get out of there. So let's watch this video and then we will come back.
We're talking about racism within the Muslim community. Now, Layinka, do you want to share with the viewers your feelings about talking about this?
See, I have a bit of a neutral stance when it comes to, not that I have a neutral stance to racism. I know it exists. And I guess because I have not had a particular race, encounter with racism in my local community or anything like that, I don't have a strong, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, because it's not been my experience. So I can say it exists. I can acknowledge that it's out there. I mean, yes, I had kids calling me chocolata in Egypt when I lived there, but then I just saw it as, let me tell you about yourselves, and move on. It's not something that I took to heart, but I know it's there. I know that there are issues with, for instance, 3 black sisters having a show,
Which we'll come to.
Which we will come to. But it's not like, I don't feel like fuel in my belly when we're talking about racism,
okay.
You
know what that leads me to? That leads me to the point that does it need to be our personal experience in order for us to feel passionate or to feel that it is a cause that needs to be addressed? And I'm not saying this for you. I'm talking about this in the wider context of the community, because many people will kind of say a similar thing.
Yeah.
It's not my problem. It's not my problem. I don't experience it. I know it exists. Let's move on. For me, as you know, I don't do injustice. I don't like injustice, and I can't keep quiet when it comes to injustice. So I'm very passionate, particularly about this. I have witnessed many times racism within the Muslim community from practicing people.
See, I haven't.
I have.
And I think that's my thing, because I haven't seen it, I haven't felt it, so it's just like, I know it's there, but I can't even, it's something that, you know, tangibly touch, because of the fact that I haven't actually, I can't say, there you go. I know that, for instance, when we have ads, the models, they are not people of color, for instance. I know that. Having said that, I will say that when I'm putting out material...
Oh, it's coming out now.
When I'm putting out material for my work and it's got a sister, I always tell my team, put a sister of color.
Why?
We're done
Why?
with the narrative that we're not seen. Because it's true, we're not seen, sisters of color. We're not put out there as the model Muslim image. So even when you have documentaries about Muslims, we're not there, right? So I know that, that's what I'm saying, I know it exists, but I don't have this fire in my belly. I do like to do things that scraps the narrative and rewrites the narrative, but I don't have that, you know, like, oh my God, let's...
I wonder why I do. I wonder
But
why.
you tell us, why do you?
I wonder why I do. I think for me, it's a major injustice. It's a major injustice. And I cannot stand the fact that we give a certain front and a certain persona that we are practicing, you know, that we are this way, you know, within the community. And yet, you know, we'll say to our daughters, come home with a proposal, just make sure it's not a black man. Just make sure it's not a black brother. Yeah?
Or, from our side, make sure it's not an Indian. Make sure it's not a Chinese run. Make sure it's, like, we do that too.
Yeah.
We do it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that, I think for me, I don't know if it's because I embraced Islam. You know, I'm not naive. 20 years after becoming Muslim, I am not naive. You know, I have been awakened to the state of what is happening within the Ummah. But I still cannot grasp the concept that we are Muslims, the one religion that places people of different nationalities and colors on one plane, and yet in 2019 we're still hearing that. We're still hearing, you know, a white sister, marry a white sister because she's easy, huh? Don't you dare bring a black brother home. What?
Yeah.
Asians? 2019, we're still doing this in the multicultural society that we live in. I mean, we live in London, you know, well, we're from London, right?
Yeah.
And we're still facing that. I mean, Layinka, you shared with me that a sister contacted you. In fact, you want to mention what she said?
Yeah, a sister I know contacted me. We were talking about HTT, and she was like, she is half Pakistani, half Jamaican. So she's got two very different sides that she identifies with. And she said, I am so glad that we have 3 black sisters on the show.
Half.
And I said, well, I'm black. And I said, well, Alia isn't really whole, but she qualifies. But you know, and she was like, I found it intriguing as someone who's half Asian to say, I'm so glad that there aren't any Asians, like sisters, like at the forefront of this, because that's what we do.
Yeah. Now let me mention, we didn't choose. You know, when we got together, it wasn't a case we're doing this because we're all women of color. It's just because we know each other, we're friends, and we have this type of dialogue. This very
but other people might have seen it that way.
Yeah, that's
interesting. So other people might see it. Like, I think she may have seen it initially as, oh wow, black sisters finally taken center stage. And she actually said, you know, you created your own table because you weren't being invited. And I was just like,
Oh, okay.
well, let's talk about that then, because is it, and actually if you see on like the social media, in the social media world, you will see that Black Muslims are creating their own platforms,
Yes,
creating their own events, creating their own tables, because they're tired of no longer being invited to it. So you had the
No
Black
longer
Eid.
being represented as well.
You had the Blacked Out Eid last year, and that was like, what? You're causing a division. Da, 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 da. I was just like, wait, we want to have something for ourselves. Why is that a problem? And yes, you can see it as divisive, you know, but you can also relate to the fact that we want a safe space where we can just jam and have a good time without being labeled as something else. And there's been quite a few things that have happened in the social media realm with regards to being Black, being Muslim, and the labels that come with that. So
this is interesting. I mean, I'm hearing so many things. You know, what the comment that came about the fact that all of us are people of color, I think that it comes with how you identify yourself. This is kind of like the thing that comes to the surface. And I was joking and saying like, what, I'm Black? It's not that I don't see my like skin tone. It's that what is my initial label. If somebody were to describe me, if I'm absent in the room and somebody's looking for me, would they say it's a Black sister who is this size and this height? Like, the way I would describe myself, my color doesn't jump to the front. I have many other things that I personally see myself, that I label myself in that way. Being Black doesn't jump to mind as my first, my identity is my first label. The other thing was that what you're saying about the Muslim Ummah. So there's a big distinction between culture and faith. And to be fair, you know, the practicing person, what percentage of their decisions and lifestyle are actually based on the faith and what are still being carried over from culture. Now, when something like marriage comes to the front, obviously it's complex. People are about their culture. They're thinking about their child's lifestyle, in-laws, blah, blah, blah. There's cultural baggage. There's stereotypes. You know, if you mess with these people, you're going to have to deal with this. If you go with this side, you're going to have to face that. There's all of these kind of assumptions we have. So how many people are purely coming from an Islamic lifestyle 100%? That you're sure that you're not going to get any cultural stain on the lifestyle. There's no pure like behavior, or if you can find families like that, it's so rare. So when parents are doing this, they're coming from a place of protection. Coming from the outside as a revert, you're looking at it in the textbook, we're supposed to be equal, this is what the faith preaches. But in reality, now you've learned, as you said, in reality, it's not black and white. It's not cut dry like that.
Excuse the pun. Right?
I didn't see that coming. But it's not straightforward in that way. It's such a complicated, multifaceted thing.
see, with marriage, it's touchy with marriage, because are parents saying don't marry the Black guy, don't marry the Asian, don't marry that because they want to be able to identify, they want to be able to speak the same language, they want to be able to eat the same food, they want to be able to do those things? Or is it because when we are having these discussions, often you hear it's because of those things. But I wonder if that's a mask for what is actually really deeply no. You are less than, they are less than, they're not for you, they're not.
No. Let me tell you something. Okay, let me tell you something. Okay, they can say it's because language, culture barrier, I won't understand them. But really and truly, and these are some of the things that I have personally heard, the reason why I would not recommend you to marry a Black brother is because all Black brothers are thieves. They came from a background of drug dealing. They are really, really bad with their women. So, And this brother could be a Black brother who has studied, who has a degree, who has a good job, and yet you present this brother to the family and all they will see is the stereotype of his color.
I know someone who that's happened to.
Right.
It was like, really? And he actually said, I can't believe we are in 2019 and this is still happening.
Yeah.
mind-boggling.
how are we still here? But it's when people are holding on to their cultural lineage thing, that our line and our people and our tribe and we're pure and we're da, 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 and they're still holding on to that. That's why you still have that perpetuated.
Going back to this, I'll tell you a personal example. I was with a sister, and the sister was basically purchasing a house. And the person that she was purchasing a house from happened to be Nigerian. And she said, and she was extremely frustrated because he wasn't responding to her calls, and they wanted to put the selfie and so on. And she said, I'm so frustrated. You know what these black men are like.
She said that.
She said that
while
to
you
me.
were there.
She said that.
Did she know?
The conversation was just between her and myself. Obviously, not knowing my background.
Oh.
So you know what I'm like in these types of situations.
You're like, how are they exactly?
No, the first thing I said was, you do realize you're speaking to someone whose father is Nigerian. No, I didn't. You misunderstood what I meant, sister. No, I didn't.
Shut down.
I said, sister, no. What you have said comes from a deep place of prejudice, and how you can carry that prejudice as a practicing Muslimah, this is something you have to address. For me, I felt really, to be quite frank, sickened by it.
This is actually really interesting, because what I was listening to this morning on the train here was from Brené Brown's Braving the Wilderness, and she was talking about prejudice and how we will say things like, all of them are like this except for that one, because I know that one. So she said it's kind of like, it's hard to hate close up. So you know someone who's your neighbor and you love them and they're this, but they're different, and you don't like those people who are different, but you'll make an exception for your neighbor because they're your neighbor and you love them. And so that sister, she will know a black person who's okay and that she can trust, but she will still have the blanket that they're all that way. They're all like this. And you know what? Having this conversation, I know that, and I can recognize times when I have had prejudice thoughts and maybe even said some things about a blanket nation of people. And yes, you're right. We do need to address it, and we do need to check ourselves. First, we need to recognize that what we're doing is actually wrong, because we still are in the place where we're justifying it.
Yeah. Okay. How a person can justify their prejudice is beyond me, especially when we are Muslims, when we have a religion, like I have said, that puts everyone on an equal plane. The only difference is your good deeds in the sight of Allah. So how you can justify your racism as a person that has submitted to Allah, I don't know. I really cannot reconcile that. I cannot.
Yeah, I think it just like you're saying, I can also identify it in myself, like that when I think about I associate certain groups with certain things. It's almost like what you heard. You drink it in the water. Like you're taught these things like through, you just drink it up like from around you. You don't know where it comes from.
Part of our growth though, Sumaya, is addressing that.
It's true.
It's addressing that. It's saying to ourselves, it's being honest with ourselves and saying, this is the prejudice that I have been raised with, or this is the prejudice that I still have. Is that serving me well, and is it serving my community well by me holding on to that prejudice and potentially at a very unconscious level passing that on to my children?
It's true. I think one of the beautiful things about living in a heavily multicultural society, if you come from anywhere in the West, your community is going to be diverse by default. The Muslims who all come together as Muslims, and we're all from somewhere else. We're all from all these different places. So you grow up around people from everywhere. You gone to university, you're with people from all sorts of places, and it kind of normalizes it. I think where it really is stark is when you come from a place where people are all the same. And then you it's us against everyone else, and we believe every other group to be like this, like that, like that, like that. So being in this kind of environment makes it a lot easier. Since kids were younger, no?
I understand your point. However, I disagree to a certain extent, and I'll tell you why. I was speaking to a sister who is a black sister, and we were having a discussion about her son and how she has to put in so much effort with her black son to make him feel valued as a black child living in a multicultural society.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, what does she?
As in, he is facing racism within his school, okay, where there are black, white, Asian, but he is facing racism. 7-year-old facing racism, and how much work, added work, she needs to put in as his mum to ensure that he grows up as a secure, confident black man, and that's within a multicultural society. This is a Muslim school. This is a Muslim school.
That doesn't mean anything. I'm sorry.
Do you see? So we have the multiculturalism, we have Islam. We're talking about this context, this example that I just gave. And yet, this is what she has to do.
It doesn't.
It's deeply rooted.
Yeah.
It's deeply rooted.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that we have different nationalities and we're, intermarrying and so forth, it's still
We
there.
still believe that some are less than us and that we are better than some.
It's arrogance. So that goes back to arrogance. And we know that
Shaitan.
arrogance
It stems
has
from that.
no
I'm better than him.
place.
He's created from earth. I'm better.
Yeah, it's something that has to be stamped out. And I mean, we see the black movement in kind of like the non-Muslim space, right? And the struggles that they go through. I don't know how we can stamp this out.
I think as you were talking about the black movement, something that came to mind for me was that in our quest to stamp it out, we have to be really careful, because we could go the other way ourselves.
In what sense?
So, for instance, in wanting to eradicate racism as black Muslims, we could end up berating non-blacks, and actually, because they've been doing it to us for so long, now it's our time to speak up and say that they're all trash.
Well, that's
Do you see what I mean?
racism within itself,
because
isn't it?
but then there would be the justification that we have been having it dished to us, so it's now time to dish it back.
That's coming as a victim.
Right, and that's what I'm saying, that we have to be careful that in our quest to eradicate, that we are coming from a playing level field, rather than we are like from here, we want to get up there and put them down there.
Yeah, you're basically coming from a low place, wanting to be at a high place,
And put everyone back down.
That's wrong.
Yes.
As Muslims, if we want to stamp it out, we simply need to go back to the simple fact that Allah has created us from different tribes and nations
To know one another.
to know one another, and that, you know what, if I want to get up there, I'm going to get up there with my deeds, with my position with Allah, with how pleased He is with me. Not because I'm black, because I've been the underdog and now I want to be something.
Yes.
No, this is wrong, because then you'll perceive everyone
and
else
I think it was important
as
for us to
attacking
say
you.
that, because
Absolutely.
that is the other direction we can find ourselves going
And
in.
many take that.
Yeah.
Many take that direction. No, within the community, it's stripping it away to the simple fact that, you know what, we are just simply different, and we can only compete with the pleasure of Allah.
We're all different, but we all bleed the same.
Oh yes.
We're all different, but we are the same. Biologically, we're the same. We have been created with the same functions inherently, right? So there isn't a one-up amongst any of us.
Yes.
Subhanallah.
Yes. And I really, really hope that this episode initiates much discussion.
Oh, I think it will.
I really, really hope it does. And I hope that first and foremost, before we think about what we can do to stamp it out, that we inspect ourselves with our own prejudices.
Yeah.
I mean, we've spoken about prejudice towards black people. I don't know if that's because, we have black blood. Maybe that's why we've spoken about it. But racism exists towards Asians, towards whites, towards Chinese, everything. But really, we need to inspect ourselves. Do we hold prejudices against people because of their color? And if so, how can we stand before Allah with that? What can we do to change that within ourselves first, before we start going out into society and stamping it out within the Muslim community?
There we go.
Right?
Hashtag that. quote that.
One last point.
Yes.
What you were talking about earlier, representation in social media, and I think this, I'm not privy to the name, so maybe this is the colorism aspect. So within a particular population, how people tend to prefer the European features through like the colonialism kind of thing. And this is what you were saying about the ads. This is something that I see as prevalent, like, you know, the wedding photos, the before and after, that the goal is always to move in that direction.
Yeah.
And what that does to the young girls that are, you know, in their, you know, pre-teens and coming up, who are looking at Instagram and social media and seeing that I'm external to their population. Like, I'm not from that part of the world, but I can see that 95% of the population don't even look like that. But their celebrities and role model figures are always look a certain way.
Yeah.
Like, this is the goal. And those are the people who get booted up as, you know, as higher status than the average looking person whose features are different and color is different within a single population.
We need to have an episode on that. We need to have an episode on that. Wrapping up this episode on racism, final thoughts very quickly.
What you said, inspecting ourselves and addressing, because like you were saying, to mask it with all of these explanations and have like, this is actually my reason, it's just because of this, is a cop out.
Yeah.
Honesty is key.
Yeah.
Being really honest with ourselves about what we're thinking and feeling,
Yes.
and how that is manifesting.
Yeah. For me, it's imagining that you are standing in front of Allah on the day of judgment, and how you will be able to justify the decisions and the choices you took and the way you treated people because of their color. I think if we can be humble enough to imagine that and to really be honest with ourselves as to what we would say, that's a starting point, inshallah. Okay, so this wraps up the episode on racism. Please do visit us on Facebook, comment, share. I'm sure this is going to initiate a lot of discussion, which is great because this is what Honesty Talk is about. If you have been affected by racism within the Muslim community, we have a couple of links of organizations that can support you, inshallah. See you at the next episode.
Welcome back to the channel. I just hope that you're doing fine wherever you are today. You know, it might seem that this thing is not happening to you or to a person, and there are so much important things that the sisters have talked about that like I feel like we need to address. And it pains me to realize that it is not only Arab people or white people who discriminate people because of their color, who discriminate black people because they think that they are sort of not good as them, you know. So it just came to my attention that we have also black people, especially who have Arab origin, who don't want their kids to marry fellow black people. Why is this? This is because they are fallen, or they are indoctrinated to the fact that they believe that black people or the black seed is something which is weak. It's something which they don't want to relate with. Maybe financially, some people have been molded to feel like if you're a black person, you're not well financially. Some assert that their kids won't look well. Some thinks that the children, people will stereotype the children because they're black. And why is this all? Because this is a whitewashed society. Well, what pains me so much is the fact that realizing that we also have black people who don't want their black children to marry a black person, but they want their children to marry white people or Chinese. And you've heard the sister talking about it directly. These are not my words. I'm just saying how I feel about this. Generally, this is something which it's not good. Imagine your family is organizing something like family come together, and then they tell you to bring your boyfriend or to bring your girlfriend, and then you're being told if it's a black person, don't let them come. How would you feel? For instance, if I was an Arab person or a person with an Arab descent, I could honestly feel bad about it. Because tell me why. This is the person that maybe I want to be with. This is the person that I love. This is the person, maybe the white people that you want me to engage with. I'm not seeing something that I'm seeing in these black folk that you don't want me to be with them. So tell me how I will feel about it. Honestly, I feel like this is unfair. And just addressing the issue of this sister who said that for her, she hasn't felt racism firsthand, probably because she felt like she's been protected or something. But let me tell you something. You don't have to experience something for you to look for ways of curbing it. Remember when I said that remaining silent in a situation of injustice, a complacent injustice. So you are conducting injustice for keeping quiet, having the sense that this thing hasn't happened to you. So you're like trying to wait for it to happen to you so that you can recognize that it's happening in the society, you know. And this also reminds me, I can relate this with the sense that we are also having people back in the motherland or back in Africa who, and this generally, this narrative is related to the Black Americans or African Americans. You see, a lot of Africans still doesn't relate so much with what happened to their brothers and sisters in the diaspora, that is Black Americans or African Americans. See, they don't still understand the history of slavery. They don't still understand the systemic racism and all those things which are happening to the black folks. To them, they feel like, these people just have all the priorities of doing the things that they can do. So, I mean, they're just lazy. I don't need to engage with them without trying to know the struggles that these people face because it hasn't happened to them. Trying to relate the same situation with this sister who said that she hasn't experienced racism. Rather, and she knows that this is something which exists. Why do you want to wait it to knock on your door so that you can go react about it? You know, and this is something that I feel like we need to talk about. We Africans also leave alone religion because these sisters are discussing in the context of Islam. They're discussing in the context of Arab. Now, let me make a little bit of a difference here. Not all Arabs are Muslims, but majority of Arabs are Muslim. Arab is an ethnic group. Islam is a religion. So a black person can be a religion. That doesn't prevent them from discrimination. The discrimination will still find them even inside the church. And how many people have we seen coming out talking about this issue, describing the discrimination that they face on the church? And just not to be perfect or something, this also happens in Christian churches, especially in the United States. How many black folks have come out, talked about the way they are facing discrimination in especially white-dominated churches? And Islam is not an exemption. Islam is not an exemption. And I came to understand a lot of things that come into play when we talk about religion. So guys, I just want you to tell me what you think about this situation. Does it have to happen to you so that you get to know that this thing is not good? Should you just keep quiet and wait things to happen to you? For me, I'll say that one day it will just knock on your door and you'd be the one who will experience this. Just like the story of that African woman and the hyena. When the hyena was when the hyena was being hunted, she went to that woman's house and said that, please woman, keep me. These people are trying to kill me. And later on, these people came to this woman's house and asked them, have you seen the hyena? The hyena keeps on eating people out. The hyena keeps on distracting the village peace. And the woman said, no, I haven't seen the hyena. Yet he kept the hyena. Later on, when people went, the hyena said that, you know what? I'm hungry. Now I need to eat your baby since you have no food. The same thing will happen to you. The person who still waits for this to happen on your face so that you can recognize it. Let's say no to racism. Let's say no to colorism. This is not the right thing. Regardless of our religions, regardless of things which are happening around us, let's have a big no to racism. Because Islam doesn't support racism, right? Basing on the context that you're talking about right now, Islam itself doesn't condone anything to do with that. So I hope to hear your opinion in regards to this situation, because this is a discourse that we need to talk about. I've seen a lot of creators creating videos related to this, but how about these people who are black and they say that they haven't experienced this? How about us getting out and talking about this? Does it have to happen to me so that I get to know that this is something which is happening to me? I want to hear your opinions in the comment section. So if you're watching this video for the first time, consider joining the membership, subscribing to the channel, hit the like button so that we can get to have a discussion with a lot more people who are like-minded like you. Now, until then, let's meet on my next episode. Peace, love, and harmony. Salute.